there. I'm still rather the way I've jury rigged this thing tonight. I'm not sure I'm going to survive. But no, it is. I was just saying, it feels like an age since we've been broadcasting together.
Broadcasting, yes. You and I talk.
Yeah.
You and I talk.
Yes.
And I really do appreciate that's not just a one time a week like check in, like, okay, hey, here's the podcast thing. No, we talk throughout the week. It's fun.
Yes.
No, we're back. Yeah, it's been 3 weeks since you and I did an episode, because I did an episode with Heidi right after when you were gone, and then I was gone last week.
Yeah.
And then we'll be gone next week too.
Why are we gone next week? What we do next week?
I'm gone next week because it's Thanksgiving here in the States.
Oh, you do
Another
that
holiday
thing where
we
let
celebrate.
we let you have your own country for a while.
Yeah, for a while.
That one.
Yeah, exactly. When are you guys taking it back? I forget.
We considered it a couple of years ago, but then you've sort of righted yourselves again now, and so we just see we'll watch it over the next few years and just see if you can keep on the right track.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think we're doing pretty okay right now.
Well, it certainly seems to be the outcome of your recent tests, or elections as you like to call them, seems to be that you're pushing yourself down the right path.
Yeah,
we however keep on testing ourselves, or not testing ourselves enough, whichever way you look at it.
Now, should we be concerned, and should we send help?
I don't think it's that bad yet, but I think there is an element of we'll see how things go, because we've just had a budgetary statement given, so we just had a budget given, and actually you'd think it was, so obviously we are Conservative government over here, so you're right of the political divide, but it was more of what I would say was more of a lefty budget. So yeah, maybe everyone's been influenced in the right way, but we might need help at any given moment.
Oh, hang on, we got a chat from LinkedIn. I can't see who it is. That's surprising to me, because LinkedIn's been down all day.
Yeah, I've just had to re-sync with LinkedIn, but normally it does that anyway, periodically for security. But for the name not to come in, that's odd.
Interesting. Well, thank you, whoever on LinkedIn. Like, this is what it shows up on our end. I love the topic.
At least we know they're a user. That's good.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So thank you for doing most of the heavy lifting on the notes tonight.
You're welcome. I got you.
Yeah. No, I was unfortunately down in the bar having my dinner and a couple of half lager shandies.
See, that's what I like about doing this so late your time, is that like you can do all your social things during. And then when you get to the show, you're nice and loosened up. You may.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah, it's a good time.
It's interesting. I've got this thing, because I don't know about when you go away on business, whether you have sort of almost like routines or anything that you do. Of course, you've got routines. I know you very well, but when you go away on business, the sort of things that you have to do. And I was sort of chatting to my team when we went away last time, because I'm normally away by myself or whatever, or with clients or whatever. And I have a thing at evening meals. I'm eat with people and all that sort of stuff. Breakfast I do by myself.
Oh yeah.
I get up early, I have breakfast on my own, and I don't really care who I'm with. If people try and join me for breakfast, I'm like, I'm not being rude, but I'm about to be very rude. Go away.
You need your own time and space. It's so weird, because like business trips are so draining. Oh, by the way, that's Heidi that did the LinkedIn.
Cool.
Two-time
Heidi.
Two-time podcast guest Heidi.
Well, she's practically taking my seat there. I thought she was she was taking my tactic.
A lot of people really like the shorts that we put out there of Heidi describing some things. Those are great, and a lot of them got some attention. So
brilliant.
No, to continue that thread. So yeah, work trips are so exhausting, and for me, it's like it's funny to say this because I'm on a podcast every week, but I'm an introvert. And so like I recharge by being alone. Oh, hey, look, they're back. Look at that. A new dating site
good.
for all tastes and ages.
To be honest, I was getting a bit worried about the fact I wouldn't have a dating site to go to. But I'm so pleased they're sending them through now. No, I know exactly what you mean about the whole intro. So I've been doing a session today where they liberally put throughout coffee breaks where you can go and socialize, or games. So like they're not quite icebreakers, but games to make you go and meet other people. And I was just like, oh, just give me the stuff that you want to give me. I don't want to go around and do all this sort of stuff and be happy cheery all day. I have to have days where I can sort of sit in a grump in the corner and just recharge and then go out and be good again. But
yeah, so like for me, I get some awkward stares from colleagues sometimes when I say, no, I'd rather not go out to dinner. But it's part of it, and so you have to. Yeah. And then it's like, it's not great. But I do get so just like knocked down isn't the word for it. It's just so drained from like there's so much to do during the day because you try to make the most of those trips, and it's just like, yeah.
The evenings are not too bad. I can do away for a couple of nights out. I'm happy to do one night out. Go and have a few beers, food and stuff. But I used to do it where I would have to do it like every night. And now if you're away for like 4 nights or something, and you're just sitting there going, I'm with a bunch of people that generally, you're spending all day with, then all evening with. And then you're just like, I want to go home. I want my own bed. I want my own family and my own food. But there we go.
There we go. Yeah, so the story tonight, we alluded to it. Sorry, I'm still like putting things back together for some reason. We didn't have that up, and then we had. Hey, yeah, the story tonight. Voting methods affect group decision making. Very interesting, very timely,
very topical. Yes, it's. Though I think I'll put a prediction in that we are going to struggle to do anything but talk about it in terms of politics.
And what's funny is that one of the very first lines they say in there is, they don't recommend this for politics.
It doesn't apply. Yeah.
And we're going to do it.
We will. Yeah.
Because that's the example that's fresh in everybody's mind. And I completely agree that that's going to be sort of a point. But I mean, I do want to focus some of the conversation, at least on some of the practical applications. Like where could this potentially be used in a group decision-making setting that would make it that would make a difference?
Sure. I was trying to think of examples of where I have. Oh, I've just thought of one. Oh, I've thought of an abstract one. Where can I put that into loose rounds?
No, don't put it in the loose rounds. Put it into. Put it where.
HF.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it above. I'm going to put it above the breakdown, so it's an actual real.
There you go. Yeah, that's great.
I didn't think Intention of. Blend of training.
All right.
I think it was,
smiley face.
I remember right. Was it 100? I think it was that. So I can talk about that.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, I think there's plenty of examples with. I'm just going to put that one in there.
Yeah. That's online and tabletop.
Yeah. We should probably address why you look different tonight. You are traveling.
Yeah, that's good.
Which is why we're talking about travel.
And also getting the excuses in there for if this whole jury rig just disappears.
Yeah. You'll never guess what I'm drinking tonight. I'm going to show you just.
Well, I hope it's
a bit. Here, look. Okay, so there's a little bit of the can. Okay, Can you guess what it is?
Well, I'm assuming it's some sort of energy drink, but you shouldn't be drinking them.
Oh no, and this is very small for an energy drink. No, I'm
okay. I was going to say.
I'm drinking officially licensed Human Factors Cask Cola.
Oh, check that out. What did you do? Put stickers on the on the cola can? Yeah. Well done. Okay.
I mean, it'd be even better if we had the legacy sticker. I don't want to burn those. I only have a couple of those left.
I did have a think the other day because I got talking to basically a brewer and a distiller, and you can actually get your own beer made and your own gin made. So basically, gin made with your labeling on it. And I was like, I just think there needs to be a bottle of gin with Human Factors cast on one side and 1202 on the other.
Dude,
things. I think that would be awesome.
1202, the Brewman Factors podcast.
You put way more thought into that than I clearly did.
I'm just kidding. I mean, that's kind of the nice thing about.
Could you do? You know when you get like a 6-pack of beer and have it as like ergonomic beer, and for each one of the bottles has a different. For each one of the different flavors has a different ergonomicsy thing, Human Factors-y thing on it. I think there's something behind. I might have to play with that idea tomorrow.
Like a flight, okay. Like a flight of beers.
So you get. I'm struggling to think now, but maybe a really light lager or something is the task analysis beer or something. All the way down to
but you gotta go with like you gotta go with fun names.
Yeah, and I'm struggling to think of them at the moment, but I'm sure we could come up with something. But, maybe we could set a challenge for our listeners.
Yeah, that's a great challenge.
Name 6 ergonomic bottles of beer.
I love it. Outsourcing the work, Barry. I see what you're doing.
Yes. See, I'm a good manager.
11 minutes in, I'm going to tag that. Hang on. 11 minutes in. 11. I don't know where I'm making these notes. Pre-show. And I'm going to say flight of HF beers. Okay. Populating my minutes now.
Skills.
Short. See, it's the ones in the pre-show that I got to remember because there's like, we do the show, whatever.
Yeah.
That one I see in post.
Just thinking about post, I should probably cut post show just slightly early.
Okay.
Just thinking if other guests in the hotel are trying to get to sleep and they can hear me, then I should.
Sure. We can cut it a little early. I meant to tell you, Barry, we should at some point start to collect our roundup post show stuff. Every story. We should do every top story. I think that's what we'll do. We'll do every top story that we covered on our blog recaps.
Yeah.
And that way we have, because that's easy to source. Because we have, the monthly recaps that we have.
Yeah.
We should start that next time we meet, December 1st. So that way we're ready to go by the time.
Because we did it in 3 sessions last time? Or was it just 2 sessions last time?
I think it was 3.
Yeah. We can do it better. We can do it quicker this time.
I think so. If we can nail it down to 2. So that'll be for the 22 episode, or I guess. What would you rather take off, Barry? Would you rather take off 22 or 29?
I don't know. Probably 29.
Okay. It'll be for the 29 episode.
Because we're not going away for Christmas, so.
Okay.
Yeah, probably 29.
All right. So no show on the 20. Or sorry, we won't have a live stream on the 29th, but we'll have a show for you.
Beautifully crafted beforehand.
Yeah.
And, because actually, I've got the 1202 roundup to do as well. Where I get my a friend of mine, Mr. Paulson, in to come and help me rate all the episodes because last time we did it of all the episodes we'd ever done because that was the first time we'd ever done it. But this year we'll do just the episodes I've recorded this year. So
I have to confess, I feel like I'm a little high.
It's only because I'm so close to the camera compared to what I usually am. So if you want to get up close and personal to the camera, then it will probably balance it out.
Well, hang on, I'll try.
Wait, because you're using yours, you can just put a zoom on.
I know. It degrades the quality. I don't want to do that, but at the same time, I think no, because my camera's doing some weird, annoying thing where like I have to manually plug it in to get it to restart. Right. And every time I do that, I push it down just a little bit more, and so you don't get
Have you seen that they're bringing out or just bought out a pro version?
I saw.
Yeah.
You know what I realized too? I realized when I went to HFES, I brought my crap camera and not my good one. This is it's just got a wider field of view.
Yeah.
And a 1080p camera instead of 720. This would have been so much better. And now I'm kicking myself a little bit because I was like, man, this video quality is really crap. Why is this? I completely forgot about this camera that I can totally do as a View 2. Hold on.
Oh, you can now because you can have the second feed. Oh, I bought I was saying about the Elgato Cam Link, so you can actually just plug in your DSLR camera if you have such a one and use it as a second webcam. I found one on eBay that was going dirt cheap, and because they're like over £100, not over £100, and so I picked this one up for like £50, I think it was. And it had everything, just didn't have the case, and it works. And I'm like, so when I'm back in my usual broadcasting place, then I'll be able to have two cameras on the go if we so wanted.
We should really figure out a second, like a setup for the second cams. Like what we use them for? Like I can't, for some reason, this is stuck on something and I can't pull it. But I would love to just show you all my messy desk right now.
Well, we should be able to do almost like different angles on ourselves. I guess would be one.
It could be. Hold on, I'm still here. I'm just gonna mute my video so that way I can like try to futz with this for a second.
Okay. Well, that's what pre-show's for. It's for messing around with such things.
Yeah.
But yeah, my
Sorry, I'm here. I hear you.
Oh, you hear me? Oh, you're just really, really, really vacant. Okay, yeah. Fair enough. It's
I'm far
so
away
actually
in the distance.
that so normal services resumed as far as your internet goes. Then,
yeah, exactly.
But actually, people are
no!
echo. But before we actually hit the live stream, which was in 12 minutes time, so if you're listening tonight or you're watching us live, well, firstly, welcome, thank you. But where are you? Give us a shout out in the chat in whatever platform you're using, so then we can give you a shout out before the show. But also, if you are listening through the show, don't be afraid to comment because it actually gives us content that we can use and we can
steal it.
Credit you with the comments that you're making and respond to them, or as Nick says, yes, just steal it. Because I've had a busy day as well. Because normally I would try and put out a some sort of social media messaging to try and get some comments back, and yeah, that just didn't happen today.
Yeah, you're failing me on that one, Barry.
Sorry. I've let you down. I've let myself down. I've let the podcast down.
You know what? We all have our ups and downs. It's okay.
That's what, I mean, to be fair, the fact that I've jury rigged the way that I've set up, I think I've gone above and beyond. Quite frankly, I very nearly considered doing this in my car. Just to, because because I'd messaged the hotel where I'm staying to say, look, I nearly went home tonight, but I didn't really want to because I'm meeting my daughter in the morning for breakfast, which would be nice. But I was like, well, if I can't get this sorted, then I will drive home tonight. And I'd have got home probably about I don't know, 40 minutes ago. And so just enough time to get in, get my kit sorted out, and get all set up, ready to come on air.
Right.
But so I messaged the hotel saying, "Oh, can I cut my stay a day short?" And they're like, "Well, you've already paid, and it's non-refundable." And I was like, "Well, my problem is this: I'm going to have a meeting with the States between 10 and midnight, and I don't want to keep the rest of your guests awake. So, trying to be friendly and courteous." And then they didn't respond, and I was like, "Oh." They're just going to ignore me now and just take the money anyway. But they come back and said, "Oh, well, we've rejigged the rooms and stuff, so put you in a room that's at the end, so you shouldn't disturb anybody." And I was like, "That's really cool, thank you." But what I really wanted was my money back
to go home.
Yeah, but it means I get to get up in the morning, have a nice breakfast, go and have breakfast.
That's true,
and so that
is true.
That's all good. And then the meeting I was going to be racing back for as well has been cancelled, so I've got no massive rush, which is good. So, yeah, so all exciting stuff. Right, we have 10 minutes. So how's your plugging things in and out going? Because you're back.
I am back. We'll see here. Give me just a moment, because I found an excellent use for the other for the second camera. Now I just need to figure out, do I need to
This is the joy of the pre-show, where we just get to try and mess around and try and break things, because it's better to break it beforehand than actually on the show, which we've done as well, to be fair. But yes.
My favorite thing is breaking stuff on the show. That's great.
Well, it makes it feel real, doesn't it? It lets people realize that we are, despite the professional facade we put forward, we are just a bunch of well-meaning amateurs.
Hang on. So I have to preface this with a couple of things. The first thing I'll say is that I was going to use this as a one more thing, not this week, but next week. I've set up my devices. I have 3 laptops that I go between: my work, my personal, and then my old personal that I use for like secondary audio, video production stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've mounted them all under my desk and ran USB-C extension cables to the top of my desk, so they are no longer sitting on top of my desk in a stack. They are hanging underneath my desk. I'm still going to use this as a one more thing. I don't care. They're hanging under my desk, and now they're difficult to get to plug things into. Just like one-off stuff. But it's great. The usability is fantastic for trying to get switching between work and personal, because then it's literally, I don't want to mess with it right now because I'm on and I don't want everything to go off. But I unplug one USB-C from my dock into another USB-C connector.
Nice.
That's
nice.
It's really nice. I dig it. I am trying to get this to work. Hold on. Like I said, I have a really, really great use case for the secondary camera. If I can get this to work, I think this is going to be a hit. Honestly, I think I don't know how we can go back. If I get this to work.
See, with that level of patience, I'm just good.
I know. Now, see, this. To be fair, this was the oh, geez. This was the camera that was giving me issues. Remember how it was?
Yeah.
So I think that might be why I'm having some issues here.
Because it's the temperamental one.
Yeah, it is the temperamental one. So I don't know if I can get it to work here, but I'm certainly going to try. Oh, there we go. All right, cat cam.
Fair enough. I'm pleased you said cat cam.
All right, well.
Because that could have got us taken off air.
That could have, yeah. Woo.
So
that got heated for a second there. Camera. Why is my... Hold on. I'm gonna refresh this, Barry. You're gonna be alone for a second. Hold on.
Uh-oh. Oh, that's fine. So he's gone to display, and actually now, because we've gone to the widescreen version, for those of you watching, you can get to see the cool decor in the hotel room that I'm in. But now you can't see it anymore because he's stolen it. Yay!
Okay.
What
Let's try.
Oh, God. Oh, your microphone's gone all weird now as well.
Oh no! Really?
Yeah, you've lost all your top end. Very basic.
You know, that's because I'm talking right into here, into this one. You can hear me now, right?
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's bad. Let's do where to go.
That's
Change it. There you go. Yeah.
All right.
Nothing like with 5 minutes to go, changing everything up.
All right. Yeah. No, it's not working for me. Sorry, everyone. No cat cam tonight. Yeah, I can turn on the cat cam for just a second here. I will do that because it was promised, and I feel like I need to deliver here. So, just for a couple seconds here, we'll get the cat cam going. Is that okay?
Go on then.
There's the cat cam. How is that receiving? Can you see?
Yeah, no, you can see that's good.
Okay.
Well, you can just see the cat's head, but oh, there we go, cat face.
Human factors cat.
It's, see, at this point, the cat's going, well, at what point do I take over the show?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what cats do. I mean,
the tail is flicking a little bit.
Yeah. The fact that we think that cats are our pets is a complete misnomer, because it's clearly that they have humans as pets.
Yeah. So we got a cat cam going here.
People who are just logging on to see this, they just wonder what
they've have no idea what's going on. Hang on. I feel like there's not good lighting on this cat here, so let's just do that.
Is that where your cat usually lives while you're...
Yep.
When you're working?
Yep.
Yeah.
That is where my cat usually hangs out. We got a whole little place for her right here. She's my little work buddy. All right. You go back to sleep. I'm going to go back to podcasting. And there I am. A lot less cute than a cat.
Well, I wouldn't say that. See, did I get bonus points?
Thanks. Oh, gee. Yeah, so 3 minutes. Good?
I should look at the
Good
notes.
with the notes.
It came from I haven't actually read yet.
I put something in there. Let's just take a minute to look at those, because I put something in there. They're all pretty high level, so I'm not too worried about.
No, that's fine. How many hours do you spend on what we? How many hours? That's hilarious. Like all of them. Yeah.
Yes, that was Serling. That was Serling that you saw there. That's my cat Serling.
Oh, I didn't see the chat. Yes.
Right over there. That is where.
Oh, so does that mean you got 2 cats?
I do have 2 cats. Yes.
Okay.
One of them.
Everybody in my house is allergic to cat hair, so we can't. Have cats.
So I was. I think
until you were forced to have them.
Had a cat growing up, and anytime a hair would get in my eye, I'd get really red, sneezy, puffy. So we went with hypoallergenic for the first one. She's half Bengal, and so she doesn't produce dander.
I was going to say, I thought he's you wash it all the time, hypoallergenic stuff. So
no, she doesn't produce dander. She's half Bengal, and so I think doing that is it kind of what's the word? Acclimated me to having a cat around.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one is a domestic short hair, and I'm not allergic to her at all.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I mean, maybe the occasional like sneezies if I get a hair up my nose, or occasional red eye if I get a hair in my eye, but I'm not like.
And so we've had like sort of guinea pigs and all that sort of stuff. And I'm basically, my daughter really, really likes them, but then she's also allergic to them, so which doesn't help. But our dog's fine, so that's all that matters.
Okay. Are you good to show?
Born ready. Let's do it.
All right. Okay. That's a tall order for Barry to follow through on. We're going to be right back, and we'll see if he truly is born ready to do this podcast. We'll be right back right after this.
Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for human factors, psychology, and design.
You know, what a wonderful night to podcast. We haven't done this in a couple weeks, Barry, you and I.
No, it's great to be back.
It is great to be back. It's episode 264. That's how many of these things we've done. We're recording this live on November 17th, 2022. This is Human Factors Cast. I'm Nick Roome, and I alluded to it earlier. I'm here joined today by Mr. Barry Kirby.
Hey, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm not in a hotel. You are.
I very much. If you can see behind me, the amazing decor, my wonderful lighting, and the high quality camera and setup that I've got here, by the wonders of modern technology that is being held together by elastic bands and Velcro.
Don't tell them.
We're doing this. It's a good thing.
Don't tell them that. That's part of the secret sauce that goes into the show. Speaking of the show, we have a great one for you on the show tonight. We'll be talking about how voting methods affect group decision making. And later, we'll answer some questions from the community about managing layoff anxiety. That's something that's in the news. Competitor research making you want to work for other companies. And how many hours a week we spend on meetings per week. But first, we have some programming notes. We were off last week. I was out in the middle of the woods. And we're going to be off next week for Thanksgiving here in the States. So I will have a recast out there for you all. I meant to do that last week, but just didn't. So I'll pick something that's relevant to this story that we're talking about tonight and throw it out there next week for you all. So we're going to take off next week, but we'll be back on December 1st, which will be a good old time. There's some really great stories out there that you can choose right now. If you go to our website, click on any one of our episodes. It's in the bottom part. You can vote on whatever story you want to hear about next week. But Barry, I'm curious, what's going on at 12:02? It's been a minute since we checked in.
It's been a while, and I've actually got a new episode out there. So I interviewed Becky Charles, who's no stranger to the podcast. She was part of our EHF 2022 but she is a rail investigator, and so she gives the lowdown on what the Rail Accident Investigation Branch does and what she does as an investigator, and how human factors plays a key component into that. So really, really interesting. Thoroughly recommend you go and download that and have a listen once you finish listening to this.
Yes, please listen to this first. Don't go leaving us, because we got a great news story for you. Let's go ahead and get into the news. That's right. You all voted for this story. So Barry, what is the story this week?
And I would like to thank you all for doing it. This story this week is new study shows how voting methods affect group decision making, and so that when groups of people need to reach a decision, they will often take a poll to test opinions before the official vote. New research from the University of Washington shows that one specific voting method proved more effective than others in identifying the best choice. In a recent study, researchers found that groups used multivoting in unofficial votes were 50% more likely to identify the correct opinion than those using Oh, there's always one. Plurality or ranked choice voting. Multivoting gives people several votes to allocate across all options. The reality show American Idol uses multivoting, giving fans 10 votes each. They can use all 10 votes for their favorite contestant or split their votes amongst one or two. For this study, students were given 10 votes to distribute amongst 3 choices. The researchers compared multivoting to other popular voting methods, plurality and ranked choice voting. Researchers found no evidence that discussions in the multivoting groups varied in any meaningful way from the other 2 voting conditions. Instead, the benefit of multivoting occurred before the discussion, as students processed the information more deeply and considered the intelligence more critically. Whilst this may work in other contexts, the researchers don't believe it would work for political elections, mostly because of how taxing it would be to allocate votes across a variety of options. So, Nick, what are your thoughts? Would you like to be able to cast 10 votes on this story or just one?
So a couple things here. They say would not be great for political elections, and that's probably true. But we're probably going to talk at least something about political elections. And I'm wondering if if it's because the methodology is just a little too complex for something that should be free and fair to everybody. So I don't know. Also, the crazies would be out if everybody got 10 votes. Like,
Yes.
I mean, geez. But yeah, I mean, I think this is really interesting to me from a psychology perspective, because when thinking about voting methods, obviously it's a hot topic right now. There's a couple ways. There's a big debate here in the States about, do you do ranked choice voting, and when is it appropriate to do ranked choice voting versus plurality, and what are the benefits of each. And this is another method that just kind of takes I don't know, I think the best of both of those worlds, and kind of makes a case why it's such a good alternative for group decision making. But Barry, what are your initial sort of thoughts on this article?
Well, I guess I'd agree with you. It's difficult not to think of it in political voting terms purely because of the climate and the news that's going on at the moment. But I'm sure we'll get over that. We will talk about it in a lot of detail.
Hopefully.
I've got a minor concern about the methodology, if I'm honest, that when they've done it, they've only used 3 options to distribute 10 votes to. My gut tells me that 4 or 5 would have given you a better flavor of how this worked, perhaps. I'm sure they've got some really good reasons behind the methodology why they did what they did, and this is just purely a gut feel. But it is going back to that political thing. Having said we shouldn't touch on it, but it does highlight actually, the voting system that you use is really connected to the outcome that you want to get. So you've got to be able to understand the weight or the seriousness of the outcome that you want. So they mentioned American Idol. Actually, in the grand scheme of things, if your favorite singer doesn't win, is the world going to end? Well, possibly not. So therefore, almost the seriousness of it doesn't matter as much. However, if you're voting on something around, I don't know, your next political representative, then does the ambiguity there maybe influence that may not give it as much grounding as it should. But it also needs to cater. The voting system needs to cater for not just the majority, because you could argue that we could teach most people how to do this, but actually the voting system in political voting needs to cater for everybody. It has to be completely accessible, not just majority accessible. But I think it's really timely for us in the UK, because just like we mentioned American Idol, we're watching I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here in the UK, and that uses this system. But instead, you get 5 votes, and you can vote for your favorite celebrity to do the eating disgusting parts of animals trials and things like that, as they're in the jungle in Australia. So that is a really useful outcome of it. But the fundamental question I want to ask is, does this actually lead to better quality of outcome? Because again, the second part that kind of concerned me was this study seemed to insist that there is a correct outcome, and therefore this got there. Whereas actually, when you're talking about public opinion, even just in our human factors world, there is no right answer. there is just less wrong answers.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about. Let's talk about the methodology a little bit here, because there is a correct answer in the methodology, and so the way what they did this, or the way that they did this, I should say, is sort of based on the pursuit teams developed by the Department of Homeland Security here in the States after 9/11. So the purpose was to sort of connect the findings of multiple intelligence agencies, track potential terrorist threats, and basically in this study they asked a bunch of different groups. I think they had 93 groups of undergrads kind of simulate the counterterrorism support teams, identify which of the three suspects represented the greatest threat. And the students were given information about these terrorists, but no group member had all the information about any one subject. And so students had to share intelligence to correctly identify the biggest threat. So that's kind of how this happened. And in this case, there was a definitive answer. One of these suspects was, in fact, a terrorist in this study. And there could potentially be a lot of issues here if we look at
let's not worry about the ethics of this.
Okay, were they shown pictures? I don't know.
Yeah.
We're just reporting the details here, folks. And so who knows what kind of other things were going on there behind the scenes. What ultimately is, I guess, the important thing here is that they found that the correct answer, by sharing information with each other, as you might do in a political campaign. There we go, bringing it back to politics. But also, they shared that information together and tried to make a decision together, and everybody voted on who they thought with all that information ahead of time. So that's how this is working, and I can see this being useful in real life decision making when maybe there's some sort of impasse where no one can really come to an agreement in a plurality thing, and 51% seems a little too unfair for, literally the other half of people. But if there's a couple different psychological things that are going on here when you cast a vote for either one or multiple answers in this, I'll just call them answers. I don't want to call them candidates, but if you think about like paths forward, let's say you're in a business or something and you're trying to make a business decision that's a collective decision. You could do this for like shareholders of stock too, right? And give them, if there's a multitude of options, they could then select which of those options they want to give more weight to. Like, I really want this option. All 10 points go to that one. Or I would like this option or this option, but definitely not this one. Then you do 5, 5, and 0, right? And so there's a way to allocate those points in a way that makes sense for you based on what you want, but also if you share information with others about what's going to be most accurate. And so that's kind of the context here. There's a lot of different ways in which we can go. I'd like to touch on some of the real world.
Just before you do that, because the last bit around this, which I thought was truly interesting, was the fact that the vote was, because you sort of think that it would be the basis of the discussion and then people weighted their votes, but the fact that this vote happened before any discussion meant, and they were getting the right answer before discussion, meant that actually we didn't need to bother with the discussion, just a vote and you're done. You could just walk out. I just thought that was
what they're saying, right?
Yeah, and I just thought that was really, really interesting. I don't know what that really, what the impact of that is on what it is that we do. Do we not bother with focus groups anymore? Just give everybody one of these weighted votes, and we'll get the right answer.
Okay, you're jumping into two different pools here. I want to. Okay,
sorry.
It's okay. You're opening up a lot of doors, Barry. You're opening up so many doors. I'm going to open up the first door. Let's just rein it back, and we'll get back to sort of that performance piece. No, it's okay, because that's a really important. Like literally everything I have under system health and safety is all that performance piece. But we'll get to that in just a second. So let's actually back up and talk about some other real world examples. So we already talked about the American Idol example. And you brought up the great example of the help me. What is it? The show.
Oh, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here. There's also other examples that we thought of before the show, right? One of them is like prevalent in video games. You level up and you get a certain allocation of skill points or whatever, and you can put those in a certain in whichever way that you feel is going to be the best for you. And if the game is designed well, then it's going to give you a quote unquote correct choice where it is tailored to your play style, assuming that you have the information that you need beforehand. A little bit of a loose example, but that is kind of the concepts that we're talking here. You level up, you get 5 points, you get to allocate them however you like. Barry, you have this other example here. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah, so I ran a workshop, and this is I say I ran it. No, I contributed to a workshop a bunch of years ago now. But we were looking at the blend of live and synthetic training, particularly in the air domain, and what we did was to give it real practical agency. Was to give each person 10 Lego bricks. And then on a platform, we had basically a Lego base with 3 labels on it: live, blended, and synthetic. And they could vote with their 10 Lego bricks where they wanted to see the balance of training happen, and where the most value could be had. And so they could put, say, 1 on live or 10 on live, or basically the sort of voting we talk about. But it had a real practical aspect because they could play with the Lego bricks whilst they were waiting and things like that. But then they would use it as their voting system. And at the end, each table, if everybody placed their 10 bricks, each table then had a most preferred training solution, and which was using the system, which was just really cool. It meant we could take photos about it and show it around other tables and get them to talk about it.
That's a really cool example. And when I saw Legos, I was like, what are you talking about here? But that's actually a really cool example of how this can be used in our practice as human factors practitioners, as UX folks. I mean, I think we can talk about that application in a second, but you did open another door, and I want to make sure that we talk about that, because you were talking about the performance piece of this and how they did this before even discussing. And it's basically just they're determining the right information before all that discussion happens. Let's talk about the performance of polling. So when you look at plurality voting.
See, it's not just me. Yes.
Okay, got him. This is where voters. This is like here in the States, we do plurality voting, where most voters select one option, and it's most of the time used in political elections. And this is just one person, one vote. That's it, right? So in this case, 31% of plurality teams. So again, we're looking at about 100 teams. 31% of them chose the most threatening suspect in the final vote, and about the same as if it were left up to chance. So that's interesting to me. That is voting in plurality is essentially just leaving it up to chance in a lot of ways. In the unofficial vote, 6% of teams had a majority of members identify the correct suspect. That's less than the 11% that would have expected it by chance, which is just insane to me. So what this is telling me is that plurality voting is like really broken as hell. And
caveat that.
Okay.
Because again, in the methodology, not every person had the same information. So they, in theory, on a normal election, everyone should have. We know this isn't true,
right?
But everybody should have the same information and working from the same knowledge base. So the bit about chance, I think, is right, because that's what you'd expect if everybody's only really getting a third of the knowledge.
Okay.
But I still think plurality is broken.
Well, then let's talk about the alternative here. At least in the States, we're getting a lot of talk about ranked choice voting, which is, being voted on. I think even Seattle here, just north of me, has voted on it recently to, and even my county too has, voted no on ranked choice voting, but basically allows them to list their preferences from first to last. So, first choice is this. My first choice is Barry. My second choice is Nick. My third choice is my cat, right? Or other way around.
Sounds about right. That's the way it should be done.
Yeah. Anyway, so then then if Barry doesn't get enough of the votes, or if it doesn't meet 50% or whatever, then the votes will go to Nick, and Nick will then move up and get all the votes that Barry had they'll move over to Nick. And then if Nick doesn't get enough votes, then they'll do another round, and then all Nick's votes, which contain all of Barry's votes, will then go to my cat, and therefore my cat might actually win against the other person who had all the first choice votes. But this is supposed to be an approach to get the moderation of or the middle point between all the candidates or all the options.
It is, but it's also there to make you feel like your vote has had weight. So with plurality voting, I said it brilliant. With plurality vote, didn't say it twice. With that sort of voting, if your candidate doesn't win, then you've lost. And we certainly feel in this current day and age, and this is not just politics, this is across the piece. If whatever you voted for doesn't win, then you feel like you personally lost. What this option does is allow, yes, your first choice might not have won, but your second choice might have, or your third. If you get all the way down to the bottom and your vote had nothing to do with it, then maybe you're just really bad at making choices. But in the grand scheme of things, you're ranking, so at least you can say, well, actually, I preferred that one over the other. So it does give you, as a person casting the vote, it gives more agency to make you feel in accordance with the outcome, which is interesting.
Right.
We have that in using. So we have this national post called the Police and Crime Commissioner, and we use a version of it for that. And it's interesting seeing that working. Because I think people, whilst they don't necessarily agree with the position, they quite voting system.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the performance here. It apparently didn't fare much better. In fact, 32% of teams identified the correct suspect in the unofficial vote. And so if you look at it, the 7% of those groups had a majority of members rank the right suspect. So comparing with 32% with 31% of the prior group, and they make the point there. We're surprised by the ranked choice voting groups did not outperform the plurality groups. There's a lot of evidence, particularly in politics these days, that ranked choice voting leads to outcomes that are more consistent with the preferences of the electorate rather than plurality voting does. That's why we've seen so many political elections move towards ranked choice voting. But ranked choice voting is generally better at revealing the true preferences of the people and not necessarily getting to the exact right answer. When people are making decisions at work, you're more concerned about getting it right than making sure it reveals what everybody thinks.
And I think that's absolutely right, isn't it? I think that's a much better way of saying what I said at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because when we're trying to do stuff and trying to get, to an answer, they had to a definitive goal. That's not what voting does. Voting gives you an opinion, and that's what these are doing. So yeah, I completely agree with them.
So the multi-voting is where this gets interesting, and this might be a result of the way that they looked at this. But the multi-voting group started stronger, with most members in the 30% of groups choosing the most threatening suspect. And what that means, again, for multi-voting is that suspect was one of their 10 votes, right? So they now have more options to use. And so with one of those, they have chosen it. And in the final vote, 45% of teams identified the most threatening suspect. So we're up from the 30s to 45% based on this one change of giving everybody multiple votes and allowing them to split them across multiple candidates and weight them appropriately.
But, and this, I might get this wrong, I could still flip a coin and have a better result.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, because we were against 3. No, that's wrong, because we were against 3. It's 3, isn't it? Not 2. So I'll take that back.
I mean, when you think about group decision making, it's probably a better option than either of the other two. That's, I think, what we're trying to argue here, or that the article is arguing.
I would say what they're arguing, and I think we're largely agreeing. I think because it's interesting, because again, I mean, in fact, this jumps nicely into the next article around the way we now perceive voting, and actually we've said in the notes here it's in US politics, but actually I would say almost worldwide politics. Certainly, it's the experience we have in the UK. How do people see polling in of itself? So opinion polls and things like that. How does it? How do we feel that they act, and how do we react to them in our voting activity? We think that polls are biased, depending on where they come from and who's pushing them out there. And despite the methodologies behind them, largely most people who are polling do publish their methodology about how they're doing it, how they're weighting things, etc., etc. So, and I'm going to steal your point from this. If we use this sort of methodology in electing leaders, etc., would we get better results?
Yeah, or even have a better sense of what's going on in the world, right? Because there's sort of these straw polls that happen before the official voting poll. The vote is the ultimate poll, right? So you have these straw polls, which, like you said, are sort of, some of them can be incredibly biased, and some voting polls can be incredibly biased too. And then you also have these aggregators that are looking at all this information and trying to get at a more true picture of what's happening, right? 538 is the one that comes to my mind. And a lot of people have pointed out sort of, gaps in their methodology as well. But over the last few political cycles here, there's been sort of a weird mismatch in polling error when it comes to understanding the general thoughts and opinions of the public. And so that's kind of the last point here is, would this allow for us to understand a little bit better? Would this move us a little bit closer to that true understanding of the state of everything if we had this type of information or this type of poll when we collected it from somebody? And I mean, it's a little bit more hard to get. It's a little bit more time intensive, but is it more accurate?
But again, I think this goes back to what is accuracy, because when we're working in group decision making and things like that, we are still generally, you never get into a workshop position where you know what the answer is, unless it's a study like what's being developed here. Or there's no way of getting to the end of it and saying, oh, by the way, you were all right or you're all wrong. Well done, congratulations. We are still picking out people's opinions. I guess there's an old adage, and apologies to all my pilot friends, that if you have like say 5 pilots in a room, you'll get 10 opinions. Maybe this lends itself to that sort of thing a bit more, but it's, I think used in the right circumstances, as I said, I've already used it in a particular example. It has value. It has agency to make it work, and it allows people to, particularly around those questions where there is not necessarily a simple right wrong option, not even the answer, but a right wrong option in your head. It's like, well, actually, I favour this one, but I can see how this option as well has a bit of value, and I don't want to discount this option, so I'll put like my 1 brick on there as well, just to show that I've thought about it and I've considered it. So it does allow you to have I guess, your variety in what you're doing.
I think the other sort of benefit to this approach, especially if you use it for, like selecting a design or something, right? So selecting options, right? That's what we're doing. But I think the other sort of advantage would be to, I guess, account for those who take it more seriously than others. You might have that person like you, Barry, who sat down and said, okay, I'm going to give 1 brick over here and maybe 3 bricks over here and 6 bricks to this one. And that's my 10. And you might just have somebody go, I just like this one 10. And, they don't really put thought into the other ones. Like, this is the one that I like. I'm just going to stick with that one. For them, it's effectively a binary poll. But then you also might have the other people that are like, I like these 2. I'm going to go 5 here, 5 here. I don't really have a preference. Those 2 are it. And so it accounts for all 3 of these, like, or sorry, not just 3, but it counts for a varying degree of how many points, or how intense somebody is thinking about allocating points to these options. And so because it caters to multiple types of multiple levels of effort. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I think this does make a lot of sense to use in a lot of cases because you can sort of break it down as much as you like.
Well, it's also when I think, when you're optioneering or decision making, to be able to turn around if you got to make decisions as a group, particularly newly formed groups or groups that are not familiar working together, and you just need to get to some answers quickly because sometimes you just need to do that. This could easily be something that would allow people to feel like they've had their say, to highlight the breadth of decisions that are possible, but still come to a decision that the group would be happy with going with and moving forward.
Right. And I mean, there's a lot of talk about not designing by committee. Would this allow you to do that? I don't know. If we think about the correct option, would this allow for designing by committee? I'm just playing devil's advocate here, stirring up shit. I don't.
No, but I mean it's a fair comment. I think it would be a structured way of doing it, wouldn't it? If you've got multiple options and there is literally, you've had the ability to lay out the pros and cons of say you're doing a design for something and there's 4 different ways of doing it, and there's no real, that one might be financially better, the other might be designed better or whatever, and you could turn around, but they all have equal trade-off. You could actually have a good discussion around the table and say, right, okay, we need to come to a decision, weight them, with your pros and, however you want to do it, you just go for it, do it. You got 5 people around the table, 10 people around the table, you will come up with an answer. As long as not everybody puts like sort of 3 bricks against it and you end up with a massive stalemate, but that's unlikely to happen. So,
right. I mean, let's talk about that speed accuracy trade-off though, because if you have a serious environment where you need thought to be put into it, right? The I'm going to put 1 brick here, 3 bricks here, 6 bricks here. You have those people, and they're going to think very carefully about how they allocate it, and that might be more accurate. So we're talking really about the speed accuracy trade-off here between the two. If you have a binary choice, it's either this one or that one, and then it can be very quick to make a choice on those if you're passionate about one option versus the other. But if you have this one, you're going to take a little bit more time, a little more meticulous about it, especially if it impacts you in your day-to-day, or is going to reflect on you and your performance at work or whatever is going to ultimately be the consequences of these choices. And so, I think ultimately, do you think that the I guess the slow speed required to contemplate this is appropriate for the level of accuracy that this article is suggesting that you would get?
Part of me feels that actually this is where almost the value of this will come into it, in that if you're presented with the information, and again going back to their methodology of not having had discussion at this point, you're presented with the information that because again not everybody knew all the same information, so you go with the information that and actually that gives you, this is adding agency to your gut feel, isn't it? So your gut feel is built upon your knowledge and experience and all that sort of stuff. So what therefore you have the feel of, it allows you to do things in handfuls. You're not going to think there of every single block, but you're going to think of, well, most of my blocks, most of my votes, 2/3 of my votes are going to go over here, and then the other 2 I'm going to put bits over here, or I'm really positive about this, 10 votes are going here. All right, I'm not sure. Open to things, so 3 votes, 3 votes, 3 votes. What we don't talk about here, actually, having just thought about, when somebody doesn't cast one of their votes, is that an option?
Right.
So they don't cast all 10 votes. I'm assuming that's not an option, but when we talk about political voting, you can do that. You don't have to cast all of your votes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just to get back at some of this article here, the thing that I guess was surprising to them is that, like we keep mentioning here, I'm going to read a quote. The real discovery and the thing that we didn't expect was that multi-voting groups would be more accurate before they discussed. This is getting at that point that you made, Barry. We just assumed they'd all be kinds of equal before the discussion and that they'd improve at the end. If people have an option to say, I kind of like option A, I also kind of like option B, that might make them think more before they discuss, which then can help them make the proper decision. And so having that thought put into it before they even start discussing, I think, is why there's some of this improvement as well. But yeah, I think there's a lot of practical use for us in our day to day, and I'm certainly going to use this if I can find a software that does it reliably and quickly, and in a way that's easy to use. Because that's the other part: is how do you explain this to somebody in a quick and easy way without having to sit down and go, "All right, so you have 10 points. Vote as many times as you'd like for the thing that you want. You can use all 10 points." Like, it just seems a little complicated for something that you want to get snappy feedback on.
I guess it is about context, isn't it? Because we're talking about using it in workshops and things like that. And I think if you've got people in a workshop, everybody is around the same. You've got the same outcomes. You've got the same desire to get the same outcome. You want some sort of decision. Therefore, when you turn around and say you've got 10 votes, you've got 3 options. Distribute 10 votes to how you see fit. Most people would get behind that and do it. When we make that comparison to the political voting, there are lots of other threads. There's lots of other agendas going on, and I think if this was seen as vaguely complicated in any way, then that will then be used as a way of testing the legitimacy of the vote and things like that. So I think educating people in a workshop environment would actually be probably a lot easier than we think it would be. To use it in any sort of political sphere or any of that sort of element, I think you would struggle.
Well, I'm thinking about this even beyond, politics related, but not like voting. So like my city council sends out emails every now and then that says, give us your thoughts on this thing about town. And they'll say, what are your top choices for us to improve around town or whatever? And you can, or, what are your top concerns? And they're not all equal, right? I mean, I might be more concerned about the playground down the street than I am about the homeless in the center of town, right? I still want housing for those people. I still want them to have a place to go, but my kid is going over here, right? And so I might put 6 votes at the park and 4 votes for homeless people down the way.
Right.
But just because I put it second, I don't want you to think that, I don't. It's like they're still getting my other 4 votes and everything else on that list doesn't matter. So I don't know. There's ways in which I can see this being useful if it's sent out to people and they use it in a way that still has impact in their everyday lives, but don't necessarily is not like political, right? I think there's a way to do this, especially for gathering feedback on designs or user preferences or anything like that. You send something out and you get you get people to respond with, this is the most important feature to me, and I'm going to put all 10 on this because this is the one thing that's missing from this product for me.
Yeah.
And that allows you to prioritize on the back end a lot easier when you have that disparity in votes. When you see, there's 400 points for this one, that means that, of the 1,000 people that we sampled, many of them put that as their number one, and the next one is 200 points, and it's by half.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm thinking this might be useful, is like that prioritization of feature sets, prioritization of wants and needs for a community, that type of thing.
No, I think we're largely coalescing around this idea that we've already got examples of where we have used it previously. That we like the methodology, we think it's got value, it's got agency. What this article does for me is actually highlight that it does have value, and that even as using it earlier on than I would possibly have done before. That the initial to use it as initial tester, initial tasting the air, as it were, that it has huge value and will get you fairly close to the right solution, or the coalescing of opinion.
I have a couple loose rounds that I want to address before we get out of here. First thing, I would put all my votes into homeless camps. Just saying, I wouldn't put them over the park around the way. I mean,
Right.
I use that as an example, but I want to make sure that people know that I would value the homeless camps over the park. That's the first thing. The second thing,
but it's probably backtracking already. You've already changed your political agenda.
I just don't want somebody to at me on Twitter, which is a Twitch show right now, and I really hope that's next week's, or I guess December 1st's story, because there's a lot of stuff going on Twitter right now. The other point that I was going to make is that yes, I'm going to take this and I'm going to use this, and I'm almost wondering if we use this, like you said earlier on in the process, you do it twice and you make your own study of it and say, look, and you show the people, the stakeholders, and be like, look, we're going to take all your results early on. We're going to take those. We're not going to show you the results. Let's all talk. Let's do it again. Look, they're the same. Do we need to do this every time? Do we need to do this every time? Like,
yeah.
And if you do that enough times, people will just be like, yeah, I guess you're right. We don't need to do this every time. You save so much time that way.
Depending on the value in the conversation.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's true. Do you have any other loose rounds that you want to talk about before we get out of here?
It's really interesting. I think it's it's nice to see some, because we do often talk about, I guess, some really basic papers at times or articles that just seem to fill the gaps in our knowledge, or put some evidence behind what we kind of already knew already. Whereas this is actually the whole nuance behind that about when you time that vote, I think has been really enlightening and a real game changer. So it's quite nice to have what seems like a really basic article that's actually got a bit of nuance behind it that could change the way that we work. So good choices.
Yeah. That is refreshing. Thank you to our patrons this week for selecting our topic, and thank you to our friends over at the University of Washington for our news story this week. If you want to follow along, we do post links to all the original articles on our weekly roundups in our blog. You can also join us on Discord, where we post those. You can do all the discussion on those stories and much more. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back to see what's going on in the Human Factors community right after this.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
We love our patrons. Huge thank you as always to our patrons. We especially want to thank our honorary Human Factors Cast staff patron, Michelle Tripp. Our Patreon crew really does support the show from the ground up. We spend so much time and resources and money out of our own pocket to make this thing happen. And whenever we get any level of support, it truly offsets some of that. And we genuinely can't thank you enough for all that stuff. This is the part of the show where I like to talk about some of the other stuff that we have going on. We have a website that you may or may not have visited. If you haven't visited lately, go check it out. We have all sorts of fun stuff over there. And yes, it is our episodes. Those are up there. But with our episodes, we got a lot of sort of detailed show notes that you might not necessarily know. So we have links to any guests that were on that week, embedded YouTube videos. So you can see how handsome Mr. Barry is over here. And, if you're regularly an audio listener, you can kind of see our faces and if our voices match up to those faces. But beyond that, I mean, there's a lot of really cool things that we do on our website that you might not be aware of. We do news roundups every week. I mention those every week on the show, but I want to specifically call it out here. We do a weekly roundup of news around the human factors world. And so we kind of break it down, top stories and, just like Human Factors News, which is kind of one-liners, but you can check them out. We put the links all there for you. It's a collective resource for you all. We do those monthly as well. We also have deep dives on our website. So, how human factors in the Olympics go together, or deep dives into some of the episodes that we've actually had on the show. We go much more into depth on the website. We have guides and reviews coming out very soon. Like I said, info on guests that have been on the show. So all of our HFES coverage has a ton of information about our guests. You can go find more about them there. Ways to submit your own stories. If you are a researcher, a student who has a story in human factors that you want to submit to us, we automatically take all the stuff out of paywalled content out of our sources because we want it to be free and accessible to everybody. And so if you have something that we can share that is perhaps behind a paywall, let us know. We'd be more than happy to do that for you. You can also search our entire catalog of episodes, videos, and our short form format, short form content. So we have all the YouTube shorts, the Instagram reels, whatever you call them, TikToks, whatever them kids are calling them these days. We have those all searchable on our platform. If you want to search all that there, it's cool. We got conference recaps on there. We got a ton of stuff. That's what I'm trying to say here. If it's been a minute since you checked out the website, go take a look. humanfactorscast.media. That's it. So go check it out. Why don't we get into this next part of the show we like to call
It came from.
All right, it came from. This is where we search all over the internet to bring you topics the community is talking about. If you find any of these answers useful, give us a little like wherever you're watching to help other people find this stuff. We got 3 tonight. The first one here is by CTrain4997 on the UX Research subreddit. How are you all managing layoff anxiety right now? I've been laid off once. It was scarring. Hearing all this news, how are you guys managing your layoff anxiety, Barry?
Aren't they all being rehired now? Isn't that part of the cycle? But anyway, it's not a nice period of time. I've been in that situation where you know there's going to be a layoffs happening, and I've been laid off myself. But you've got to look on the positive side of it, and that's all you can do. You can't just sit and keep that grip on that job. Get out, start looking at the positive side of things. I was absolutely gutted when it happened to me, on a whole bunch of reasons, but genuinely was one of the best things that ever happened. It sprungboard me into actually doing still in the same domain, different company, and was just blew my career up in a really positive way. Nick, what about you? Have you been in this position at all?
Thankfully, I've not. Knock on wood, with everything going on right now. I mean, there's a couple of common sense things I think that you can be doing right now. There, you can sort of use this as an opportunity to update your resume, so that way you're ready to go. Maybe spend a little extra time on the weekends polishing that thing up because it's been a while since you touched it. And you know what? Even if you're not afraid of a layoff, why don't you bust that old thing out and dust it off a little bit? And then you can also, start saving a little bit, maybe tightening down your spending. Those are some common sense things that you can do. That, off the top of my head, at least, that if you're expecting some sort of change in climate with uncertainty, you can start doing those. But I mean, also, you could start looking. If you want to get ahead of it, you could start looking. If you have sort of the hubris of, I'm not going to get laid off, and they're never going to get rid of me. Maybe rethink that attitude. I don't know.
Yeah, but actually, just to follow that up, if you're that close to it happening, don't jump before you're pushed.
Yep.
Because if you leave, then you miss out on any sort of payout.
Yep.
So, yes, go and look for something else, but don't jump.
Yeah. Yep. All right, next one up here from User Experience subreddit. This one's by BJJJ John. I think that's right.
That rolls off the tongue.
Yep. BJJJ John. Does competitor research this one's funny to me. This one's hilarious to me. I don't know. Okay. Does competitor research just end with the conclusion that you want to work for them? Over the last years, I've done competitor research. I can't help but think at the end of the process how awesome my competitor is. No matter the problem, product, or experience, I'm left with the overall feeling that I'm not at the best company. Does anyone else feel like this? Has anyone else jumped ship to work for the best-in-class competitor? Barry?
No. I was generally, I mean, my gut reaction was no, clearly not. I guess when doing competitive analysis, I have looked and gone, oh, I like the way that they do something, and I might have taken the idea and rolled it into what I do, I guess. But no, I can't. Hand on heart, I can say I've never sat down and said, oh, because they're doing this, I really want to go and work with them. There must be a time I've done so. I honestly don't think there has. Nick, have you been in a situation where you've just gone, wow, they're amazing?
Okay, so not in a professional manner, not like a competitive analysis that you do at work of other products that are closely related to the thing that you're working on. I've never gone, I should be working there. Because like you said, beg, borrow, and steal the parts and pieces that you feel is going to be best for your product. I have done sort of the, I don't know how to like, basically the everyday interactions. Like, oh, that they're doing something cool. I'd like a job there. That'd be kind of cool.
Mhm.
But I haven't done not with a competitive analysis. No, this one just tickles me a little bit.
I've generally just lusted after companies that are like,
Yeah,
oh, if
exactly.
they offered me a job, I'd jump at the job. And actually, long-term listeners to this podcast will know exactly which company I'm talking about. But yeah, not after doing actual work.
Yeah, exactly. So no. Next one here is again the user experience subreddit by Lipino. They write, how many hours do you spend on meetings in 1 week on average as a remote UX product designer? I'm going to add in researcher, human factors engineer. It's all the same here. Well, not all the same, but it all counts. Barry, in a week, how many hours do you spend on meetings in a remote setting?
In a remote. So yeah, so if I'm working a 37-hour week, which is kind of our sort of standard, though I generally do a lot more than that. I would guess at least 15. I would say a good around 15 up to about half the time I'm probably on remote meetings, particularly now after post-COVID. Yeah, I think that'll be about right. Yeah.
I don't want to put a number to this because it's gonna be it depends for me. There it is, right? There's the button. So it will depend on which phase of research that you're in. If you are conducting user interviews, it's gonna be like halftime. It's gonna be even higher, potentially 75% of your time. In a 40-hour week, you're on calls for 30 hours of them. On a analysis week, it could be the opposite. You could have like 5 hours of meetings, and a meeting a day or something. It just depends. I would say on average is probably where you said, Barry, anywhere in the 15 to 20 hour range. Maybe a little bit less some weeks. I don't know. 15 is good. 15 is a good number.
The only reason I've got a slightly decent answer to that at the moment is because I've been doing some resource planning for myself, and what I've had to do to deal with the ebb and flow of what we do, I've kind of think that we work in 3-month cycles in terms of the way that projects run, and so I've actually I averaged that out over a 3-month cycle to get roughly what my utilization is. Talking about it on a week-on-week basis is, as you say, is really difficult. But fine, if you want to look at what it is, look a bit broader than that and see where your true work cycle flows.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know some software will tell you as well. Google Calendar, I think, tells you, and I think Microsoft Teams tells you, hey, you spent this many hours on work last week or in meetings last week. So they're sensitive to that, and they want you to work more and talk less is ultimately what that's coming down to. All right, getting into this last part of the show. It's just one more thing. Barry, what's your one more thing?
Well, yeah, I'm so shocked that we've made it to the end of this and the technology's held together. My one more thing this week is we sort of mentioned Twitter earlier on. Obviously, different people are looking at alternatives, and I trialed Mastodon this week, which is a federated social media platform, which all the as they call it, that all the lefties are going to. And I found it incredibly difficult to use. The idea of you have to do so much pre-prep to get any sort of meaningful news feed. I found it really difficult. So I think I'm missing a trick somewhere. I'm clearly not using it properly. But for the idea of what already your social media feed has, not just Twitter, any social media as a main feed that has stuff that the algorithms push your way. What they're trying to do here is trying to get you to almost develop your own algorithm by doing these selections, but it's so difficult to get into. So I would encourage anybody else to go and have a look at it and see whether I'm just being completely moronic over it and just missing something simple. But for being the next big thing, I've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's mine. What about you, Nick? What's your one more thing?
Well, I was mentioning last week, or not last week. Last week was the thing. The week before, I was going to be in the woods alone with my family with no internet during election night. And wouldn't you guess? Would you like to guess what happened? I got a little signal. I got just a little signal. So
just enough.
I was just enough to refresh Twitter every couple minutes to see what was coming in. Couldn't stream video, but I could certainly sit there and refresh every 5 minutes, and that's what I did. My wife and son went to bed super early because it was a long day of driving, and so I just sat there with the fireplace on, and in the dark with my Twitter feed on, just refreshing in the middle of the woods. that was me, and it was
guy.
Definitely a different experience for election night than I'm used to. Like I said, I usually have up my 3-headed monitor display with something over here, something over here, something there, TV on, streaming, phone on different resources, just going, trying to figure out the latest. It still worked out okay. But yeah, it was harder to track the like weird counties, but there are still some races that are super close that are still potentially coming in. Anyway,
cool.
That's it for today, everyone. If you like this episode and enjoy some of the discussion about decision making, I'll encourage you all to go listen to episode 242, where we talk about how top reviews can help sway consumer decisions. I'll actually throw that as the recast for next week, so stay tuned for that.
There you go.
Comment wherever you're listening with what you think of the story this week. For more in-depth discussion, you can always join us on our Discord community. Visit our official website. Like I mentioned, tons of cool stuff over there. Sign up for our newsletter. Stay up to date with all the latest Human Factors news. You like what you hear, you want to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do that. One, thank you. Just keep listening. That's what you can do. You can always leave us a 5-star review. That actually helps out with some of the folks looking for other shows to find. Leave us a 5-star review. That'll help out. Tell your friends about us. That is something that will really help the show. And that is free for you to do. Hey, have you heard about Human Factors Cast? It is a cool podcast where they talk about things like voting and, I don't know, some other cool stuff, robots, AI, decision making. It's all there. It's a cool show. Tell your friends. And if you have the financial means, you can always support us on Patreon. We'll never say no to your money, and we will appreciate you forever. As always, links to all of our socials and the website are in the description of this episode. Mr. Barry Kirby, thank you for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go and find you if they want to talk about your really conservative views on politics?
Yeah, well, you can always find my really conservative right-wing views on Twitter at Baz_K. You can find me on Mastodon as well, but I've got no idea how. But if you want to listen to some in-depth interviews with players in the field of human factors in and around the domain, then come on to my podcast at 1202 Human Factors Podcast, 1202podcast.com.
I may have pushed him too hard, folks. He's going to be on Truth Social by next week. As for me, I've been your host, Nick Roome. You can find me on our Discord and across social media at Nick_Roome. Thanks again for tuning into Human Factors Cast. Until next time,
it depends.
Barry, your internet held up.
I'm shocked and stunned, if not a little amazed.
Man.
That was good. It was.
We had a ton of fun that episode.
It was quite cool. I'm incredibly tired. You could tell I'm just so used. I'm spoiled when I do this normally because the chair I'm using at the moment is rubbish. The desk I'm using is too low. I'm having to lean over to sort of get my face in the right place in the camera because it's not an adjustable camera. The microphone's all right though.
No, that's good.
But and it's not my usual quality headphones either. But apart from that, it's all going really well.
Apart from everything that's went wrong, it's going swimmingly.
Well, no, nothing's actually good because I was messaging you yesterday saying, "Oh, this isn't going to go well," because I tried restream through the thing and it was taking forever to load, and then today the whole website internet was just crashing out and it just wasn't connected. It was connected but not connected to the internet, and I was like, "Oh, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work," and then we're like, "Well, we'll try other things," and yeah, it's my jury rig is held together. So, yes, very pleased with that.
Yeah, I am too. I'm happy that I don't have to do 2 recasts in a row.
That's true. But I forgot. I was trying to remember the name of the other social media platform, and I completely forgot it was called Truth Social. And the other wing of the
nothing but the Truth Social.
Yeah. Oh, everything but the
everything but the. That's right.
Yeah,
that's what I meant to say.
But
jeez.
But no, that's good. It's tired this week though. That felt that I know we've said this before on other ones, but it's the topics you don't think that are going to we're going to struggle with, that actually because we talked for ages on that one. It was, I sort of turned, I looked down, I realized we were 10 past already, and I was like, oh,
yeah, I know.
And I think we shock ourselves at times. In news, just that the patrons can listen to, because of course everyone else has gone to bed now. I've had further discussions about EHF 2023.
Oh,
yeah.
Ooh, what's going on with EHF 2023?
Well, it's definitely happening, which is good.
Good.
As a conference, and then maybe us having doing what we did with HFES recently, we could maybe do a return to that and do it from the UK. So it looks like that's
Are you telling me
more certainty, more certain than it was last week, and I was fairly certain last week.
Oh wow, that's fantastic. I love it when things are more certain, and that is in the month of April next year. So that will be a good time. April Fools. Please don't tell me it falls on April Fools, because that would be a wonderful stream.
It's the 23rd, something like that.
Okay, all right.
I want to say it's then. This is where I'm going to try and completely overload my. I should have been in that one. My connection, and see if I can, because I've got a graphic for it somewhere.
Oh, wanted to tell you, you broke up only like twice during the thing, and it was only for a split second. So,
cool. Okay.
Yeah, no, you were good.
That's
you were pretty solid throughout the whole thing. There were some moments where your mouth was not matching the things that you were saying.
Oh, that's like most of the time, isn't it?
But if you talk close enough to the microphone, we get around that problem. See,
yeah,
it's a trick that I've employed where you can maybe see my mouth moving, but I'm so close to the mic that you can't tell exactly what I'm saying.
Yes. Well, that's where this mic is, because I'm trying to be close enough to this one, but really, ideally, it wants to be like there, to be able to, or just down a bit. But it's quite good because it's got a little pop guard on it and everything. It's what I use for my day-to-day meetings. But then, with now the way I've got my desk set up, I don't know why I wouldn't use my normal microphone for everything, and actually get rid of some of the clutter around my desk.
Okay, get a notepad ready, because I'm going to tell you what to do. You get a dock with a USB-C, and then you just move all of your peripherals. You plug them all into that dock, and then you just undock from one and plug into the other, and you switch modes.
So you're right. I only use one laptop. Well, I sort of do that already. But what I do have is and I don't know why I do this. I have this microphone, which is a USB microphone for meetings and stuff where I'm just doing normal sort of, I'm gaming as well. But then I use my Rode microphone that goes through my mixing desk for podcasting. and our live streaming and stuff. I treat them as very separate things, even though they're all connected up through the same thing, which is just weird. I should just be able to push all of my sound through my mixing desk.
Yeah, you should.
But I need to be well. In fact, the reason why I haven't done it is because I don't have an output to monitor speakers in, so everything is through headphones. Whereas actually, I want some bits to go. I've got the speakers there to do it. I need to do some final bits of wiring to make it happen. But it's not the way that things are laid out. It's in the cabin that I use. It isn't quite as I would like it. But I don't have the time to mess around with it.
I see.
Do you feel enlightened now?
I do. Yeah.
Good.
Do you want to stall for like 3 minutes? Can you stall for 3 minutes?
Yeah, I can stall for 3 minutes.
Okay.
The date of EHF is the 25th and 26th of April. But they're doing a pre-conference masterclass on the 24th. And they might also be doing some a careers fair on the same day as well. So the CIHF normally runs a careers or a futures type event within the year, which I've taken part in a couple of times, both as apparently some people found it inspiring about my career profile, but also we've used it to try and find new graduates to recruit. And so, but rather than having it as a completely separate event, they're running it the day before the actual conference, which should be really interesting because I will be there. That doesn't make it interesting, but I'm really interested to see the sort of different people that will turn up and see if we can convince them people that will come and turn up either just for the master classes or for the careers event to then actually stay for the conference as well, because I think that's what the conference is going to be. I think we should really drive for the conference this year is to really push this idea of communication. And I think people have been asking me what's going to be my driving force theme as being president of the CIHF next year, and I think everything I'm doing or trying to do is all revolving around communication. And so I think fundamentally that's what it's all going to be about, is trying to get us to talk to people in different ways to raise the profile of what it is that we do, or at least attempt to anyway. Making the most of things, platforms like this, social platforms, talking to people in the way that we want them to listen to us now, not the way that we are forcing them to listen to us. Or at least that's just the way I look at it anyway. You're back.
Listen. Yes, I am.
Oh, you've gone really choppy.
Oh no, that's not great.
No, it's not. Is it you or is that you or me?
No, it's probably me. That's probably
because
I
have...
have...
now. That's good.
Okay, great. Okay, good. I don't know what happened.
It's probably my mobile phone just going, I've had enough of this now.
I had to... So there's only a couple of hours of silence here a day. I needed to record a Human Factors Minute. That is... There's only a couple hours of silence in a day.
Fair enough. That works. But,
Thank you for covering. I appreciate that.
No worries. It's all part of the service. But yes, I think as we were saying pre-show, I think I'm going to have to think about cutting this shorter just because I've got apparently other residents in the hotel and stuff who might be
right. There's other people that are sleeping.
Knocked. Apparently in the rooms next to me and stuff. Apparently they've got thickish walls, but I don't know quite how thick.
Yeah.
But and given it's 20 to midnight, so
let's go ahead and plan to get out of here. And you know what? Thank you all for listening, for sticking around for the 10-minute post show. Barry, just one more note that you may have noticed. I don't know if anyone else has picked up. I didn't put anything down below tonight. Did you notice that? I didn't put any of these down here. Did you notice that?
I didn't notice. You had pre-show up at the beginning.
I did have pre-show, but
that was it.
But I'm not doing that because
it makes it the rest.
It makes it easier for short production, which,
that's fair.
that's the thing.
And actually and thank you for the feedback you gave me on my shorts, because they were my little experimentation with them. I'm clearly feeling my way with what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did you make them snappier? I'm just curious.
I haven't got around to. I'm not in time to sit down and make some newer ones. I sort of made 2. I need to go back now, and because because I was like thinking I need to do a minute, and one of them was a minute and a half, just because I picked up a segment. But actually, I'm going to go much tighter than that.
Yeah.
It's
an art, dude. Happens. I am like struggling with it when it comes to the stuff that we put out there, because it's like first off, you got to find something that has been said in like 2 minutes or less, and then you got to pull out the important pieces of that. You got to cut it really tight, because you got to fit a lot into that minute, and you got to make the important pieces stick out. And so it might be chopping up somebody's complete sentence that then comes back and is basically, it could be read as a different context when you play it back. You got to make sure that that intent flows through and it's not like misunderstood, unless you're trying to go for the laughs, like we're live. Oh, I'm nuts in my mouth.
Well, they're that's the low hanging fruit, and you always go for that. But what made me laugh is, I think I said this at the lab, was the fact that I spent ages making these, and then my 13-year-old son was like, there you go, I've done that on an app, there you go, have that. I was like, but okay, fine.
I mean, did they come back with like the same thing roughly, or did they like improve upon it?
He'd picked a different bit, and he just showed me how he could very quickly, just on his phone, do and pulled out like a 45-second clip and topped and tailed it and made it look good.
Dang!
And I was like, I hate you. Thanks for that. You just completely devalued my entire afternoon.
That's incredible.
But,
That's
no,
incredible.
it was good.
I spend a good hour putting them together. Like it's 7 minutes, and I spend an hour doing it.
But I can see. I mean, now that I've been playing with it, and now it's unlocked some capabilities. So I used DaVinci for doing my stuff. It's unlocked a whole lot of stuff about how that works,
right?
That I just didn't know, because pushing the YouTube bit pushed me to do it. So it is valuable, and it's all a learning curve, isn't it? So.
It is. Well, I'm glad you're learning skills. We can go ahead and wrap up for tonight.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, sticking around, hanging out, being with us. We appreciate it greatly. We are not going to be here next week. I will post a recast, although it will not be live streamed. It will just be a podcast episode. And that'll be it. Although,
cool.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I think I'll do the recasts in the cases where we were expecting to go live. But this one's we're not expecting to go live. So anyway, yes, thank you all. Barry, you have a wonderful evening and safe travels. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Cool.
And enjoy your time off, even though it's the States holiday.
Yeah. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye now.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.